Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Changing the Narrative podcast. I'm your co-host, Dr. Gabriel Warren, along with Carl Benson. And tonight we have a very good guest, Adrian Davis, who's really, really good brother who's been doing a lot of good work in the city of Nashville and the surrounding area. So we're glad to have him on the podcast. Adrian, thank you for being a guest, and we're looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you for having me, man. So glad to be here.
All right, Adrian. So for the listeners that are, tuning in today, we really want you to, start by just kind of giving us a little bit of understanding of, who you are, what are some of the things you're doing. Just give the listeners a good opportunity to get to know Adrian for who you are.
Yeah. Best way for people to know who I am is a person who loves having fun. I am a person who's all about motivation and a person who's all about accountability. Those are the three things that my clients have summed me up over the years, and I don't push back on it. I like them. I tell people my middle name is fun, and I wake up with this motivation, this drive every day. We'll get into it a little later, but then the last piece is you're gonna stay around me and you're gonna try to go somewhere, do something. I'm gonna be one of those people that will hold you accountable because it's your dream and I want you to get it. So yeah, man, that's a good way to say it on a generalized level. On a professional level, I do leadership training and development, and I do really transformative type of work for individuals. I make sure that they focus not on just getting the work done or the job done for an organization, but making sure they are building themselves up along the way to make sure they are having a career that they can be really excited and energized about. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's waking up, going to work every day, even if it's on the virtual side. You got to do that. You got to get yourself up there. What if you don't have to worry about trying to get yourself up? You just automatically are because that's who you are every day. You don't have to be awakened by an alarm. That's the kind of work that I do, and have a lot of fun doing it across the globe, man.
Right on. Right on. Now you were talking about, I believe you're talking about your Momentum Leadership University. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit more about that, but then also kind of what motivated you to sort of create that platform and sort of to not only motivate others, but at the same time, what motivates you to do that?
Yeah. So I'll break that question down and answer it bits and pieces. So the first part about what Momentum Leadership University does is we work a lot with corporate organizations on making sure that leadership development is in place and that their people are getting the tools they need. One of my core beliefs and one of the organization's beliefs is that there's too many individuals who get promoted into roles of leadership, and that's a great thing on the front end, but then they're not prepared to actually lead. In fact, there's a stat that was out there a few years ago that I read that I connected to that said about 76% of individuals who are promoted into leadership roles are not prepared to lead. Now, that's a dangerous stat on the back end because every person who is being managed by one of those 76% are dealing with bad leadership, bad management. And that causes stress, it causes anxiety, it causes turmoil, and it eats away at the body. And literally, people are being sick, dying, or even worse, being cancers inside of organizations. And I try to do my little part in making sure I can reduce that number down. So I that's what the organization side does for us. How am I motivated with it is because I believe that you should be excited to go to work. You should be fulfilled when you go to work. And if you're not, then you need to start looking for ways to actually find that place in life. Life is too short, man. Life is too short for you to sit there to be in a space or a job that you are saying, "Oh my gosh, I gotta go here because it's Monday and I got a whole week." Like you got got this. Like I get to. That's my whole thing. The shift is there. I get to go, I hit the road every other week or every week or whatever, working with a different organization, and I get to do it. It is a joy. It is a pleasure for me to do it. And so, but I made some hard choices and I made some hard decisions. And I did that about a couple of years ago when I retired from corporate America, to go and help corporate America. So there's decisions that had to be made, for me to fulfill that lifestyle, but I'm glad I did it. And I think that sometimes we have to come to that crossroads of, okay, what is it that I really want to do? What is the price that I'm gonna have to pay to get that? And am I willing to do it?
Mhm.
And if you can go through those three questions and answer those, and you're okay with what those answers are, then the next thing to do is do it.
There you go. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's good. So, Adrian, could you tell us a little bit more about, how do you give back to your community? What are some of the things? Of course, you're giving back this way for sure, training leaders and helping leaders to develop and all of that. But I know there's probably other ways that you're giving back to your community, whether that's locally within Nashville or even if it goes beyond that.
Yeah. I'm one of those people that really fall in love with this concept of who you are at the core really starts to show, especially when you start to get some money or you start to get some fame or some recognition or things like that. Because now you can actually be who you really are, really wanted to be in the first place. And this is a long way of me answering this question, but I have a lot of philanthropic tendencies and things that I do, more specifically in the Middle Tennessee, Nashville area. But um, I remember I was working, and this is no hit on anybody's salary. This is just where I was. I was working at an organization, and I was making about $33,000 a year, and it was cool. It worked with my family and things like that. But I looked and realized there were people who were less fortunate than I was, and they weren't going to have a Christmas or a holiday season. And and what I did is I didn't let the fact of me not having a lot of money be the stopping force or the thing that kept me away from doing this. What I did is I built an alliance with a lot of individuals in the city and said, "Hey, we want to raise some money, and let's see if we can raise a lot of money and help as many kids as possible." And so I remember our first event we called Christmas with Crown Davis. We rented out a restaurant. We allow all the kids to get anything they wanted off of a limited menu. We brought in a comedian and we brought in a singer. So the artist did holiday music. The comedian, did his thing, and then we had a relationship or connection with one of the local Nissan organizations, and we rented out a Armada and we filled it up with toys.
Mm.
And we backed it up to the restaurant after they finished, and everybody sang Christmas carols and things like that. We said we got one more gift for you. We open up the door and pop the trunk, and you could just see like 30 kids and their families all there. And that right there, that moment in life, let me realize how much it wasn't about me, but how much it was about others, and I got addicted to it. I mean, I got addicted to it. And I remember I was just sitting there after everybody had left at the restaurant, and my good friend came over and said, "Man, how does it feel to be a philanthropist?"
Mm.
And that question right there keeps me like pushing every time. So now every year I'm trying to connect with schools. We trying to figure out, can we provide a new library? Can we do this? And so we're always looking for opportunities, but we've helped um, um, halfway houses for individuals who were trying to start that. We've been able to, with our real estate properties, help individuals get into homes as they transition out. So, there's ways that we can do it. And I only say that not just as a piece for applaudance on my side, but to say that wherever you are in life, you can make change. Don't just
Mhm.
get all connected into, well, I don't have a whole lot. Because there was a point in life where I was like that. I remember I was watching I think it was like a hurricane or something that hit, and they were having like this concert, and they were trying to raise monies for it. And I had this very closed mindset. I was like, man, I don't even have enough to pay for my food, pay for my stuff. How am I gonna give, right? And they was like, every little bit of help, and I was like, every little bit helps me, you know. I was illmatic about it, right? And I realized that my focus was so much internal on why me, why I don't have, that when that flipped for me and I realized how can I be of more help? How can I build synergies with other people? How can we make sure that these individuals are being helped? That funds tend to come and people tend to get connected to your vision and things like that. So, when you're passionate about something, people will get like connected to who you are. The thing is that you got to be willing to expose that vision out to folks and say, this is what I was thinking. Anybody excited about it? Like anybody connected? Does this touch anybody? And even if they don't go, you start off with your $5. You give that first
Right.
baby doll, right? Now what we do, in a current state is we just fill our living room with all these toys and things and I let my kids see the a practice of giving. Yeah, they're gonna get
Yep.
their stuff. They're gonna get their stuff, but it's about them seeing what does it really look like to give to others. And so yeah, man, I get excited about that because I realize I'm in a good spot in life now where it's not just about can I eat, it's like how many others can eat as well.
What's up? I appreciate that. I appreciate that answer. And I think part of that, obviously, as you go through all of this, I assume you're in rooms with a lot of different folks, right? So white folks, black folks, whatever the situation may be. Can you kind of give a general idea or a general misconception that maybe you go into a room with and people are thinking a certain thing about you as an individual, about your organization or whatever, but as a black man in general, that you would say, okay, this is a misconception that you have, but it's something that also folks have outside of this room. So just generally thinking of misconceptions of black men that maybe you've expressed or seen, I should say, and maybe tell us a little about how you handled that.
Yeah, Carl. So this was a tough one. This is a tough one when I think about it because some people probably think that I'm not honest, but I've been in a space. I grew up in the South, and I don't even hear the noise, man. I really don't hear the noise, and it could be it's this old adage, or just an adage in general, says that you see what you look for, right?
Mm.
And for me, I never really looked for it, and to the opposite of it, I actually look for how do I connect with individuals. Now, I will not be naive and say it doesn't exist. If I see it, I tend to touch it and go. So here's the things that I usually experience is that I'm young, right? This is the thing. Now, for I don't know who your listener is going to be, but this is okay. I want them to hear this as well. Black don't usually crack. Right? So sometimes we look a lot younger than we actually are, right? But the misconception is this person is young, they don't know as much.
Right.
I got my hands at a lot of stuff. I've opened about 12 businesses. Right now, I don't have them all currently going at the same time, but over time, you learn a lot of stuff when you open like 10 to 12 businesses. You learn what works well, what doesn't work well. I've worked in corporate, international, national, nonprofit, faith-based, and small business. You're gonna learn some stuff, right? And so don't let my youth be the misconception. So that's the first thing. The other thing is um Gabriel, since we've last seen each other, I put on a little weight. Some of it's still a little muscle, some of it is not so much. So I look big. Like people will see me. I get my suits tailored and they like, did you ever play football? I was like, no, I actually played basketball. But to that point, the misconception is you're good with your hands, not with your head.
Right.
And I need you to understand that I could be both. But don't start off with my hands, right? I may be good at both. Just give me an opportunity to show you who I am before you start to think. So those are some of the misconceptions that I have actually felt or has been stated to me that I've said it. And like I said, I let it roll off, and I keep moving forward with it because I just believe there is a way that you can change the energy in the room and make people realize, man, I don't even know what I was thinking about. Like, let's go on, let's move forward with this.
I'm gonna hang on to that. You see what you look for, though. That's something that those little nuggets I pull out of these conversations. That's one of them today that I not only wrote down. I put the three exclamation points by.
Yeah, man.
I'll be using that one again. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, that's really good.
Uh,
And Adrian, while you were talking, man, I started laughing a little bit because I remember when I first got into higher ed full time and I was, teaching and, of course, being a professor and all that stuff. My first year, it was hard for me to tell people what I did. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is something that I haven't shared with a whole lot of people, but I shared it with my wife. I found myself telling people like, "Oh, I work in higher ed," because I didn't want them to come back. When I did tell them, "Hey, I was a professor," a lot of people said, "Oh man, you look so young," or they had never seen a black professor before. And it was kind of one of those things where I started realizing over time that I wasn't even confident enough to tell people, "Hey, I'm a professor," because I didn't want to hear those remarks. So hearing you say that kind of just reminded me of that. So man, thank you for sharing that because that's something I don't think we always think about how our environment can also create a little bit of that tension for us. But
Yeah.
so with that being said, though, I wanted to kind of ask you because you've done so many things and you started so many businesses, and like you said, you know a lot of stuff. Um, Tell us a little bit more about how important mentorship is to you, but from the perspective of one, you being a mentor, but then you two also you being a mentee, because I know it's an ongoing cycle.
Yeah. So if you would allow me, I'm gonna inverse it just
Mhm.
for the flow of the conversation. I think it is super, super important that you get you some mentors, and that's what it is, right? In my newest book called Mind Shift, I speak about this. I speak that if you get a mentor that is good in, let's just say, real estate, right? First, first it should be really focused. You need to know, get somebody who's really good in that space, not just because they just know how to diversify their portfolio. Like that is what they're good at, because then you may need to have someone else that may be in education or in whatever, right? So you should have multiple mentors. I do corporate speaking, keynotes, and things like that. I have a coach and a mentor that's in coaching and business development. Then I have a mentor that is in speaking. Then I have a mentor that's what he does. He creates businesses. So I have like four. Then I have a spiritual mentor. And so it's super important to have these different individuals pouring into you because here's the reason why I did it on the inverse. It's easy for us to get into the act of pouring out, but if you're not filled, you can't give anything, right? And so the quality of what's being poured into you also dictates how the quality is that you're going to be able to give out to others. So it's super important for me to be able to mentor other individuals, but I need to make sure I'm providing them with some high quality mentorship. And so that goes with who am I being mentored from, right? So I remember it was a guy I poached for a year. I saw and it was beautiful because it was literally like a calendar year. I was at a convention and people was like, "Man, this type of work you're doing, you probably need to speak to this guy." I was like, "All right." Then I saw another person like, "Ah, oh, you probably need to speak to this guy." So I remember walking up to him. I was like, "Hey, people told me I need to speak to you." Now, I'll be honest, when I first came up to him, I was trying to sell him. I was like, "Hey, how do I get connected to business?" And so I don't know if he felt that or what, but he was cordial. He was like, "Hey, let's do lunch. Let's do this." And so, I brought my product the next time. Hey man, it'd be great. Why don't we talk about this? Yeah, nah. And I remember from a spiritual standpoint, just kind of having that download one day and was like, stop trying to sell him. You need to learn from him. And immediately when I did that, I said, hey, I remember like it's yesterday, I was in a Panera Bread. I was like, would you be my mentor? It took me a year for me to try to get him to have a conversation with me. After I said, he's like, sure, let's do this. Every month or every other month, let's meet together and let's do this. This guy, what I'm telling you, he was dropping bombs and he was sharing stuff with me that I really needed. It was more important than the business that I was trying to pitch him. His connectivity was so amazing. He was like, man, I'm in this area right here. Let me show you how big this guy was. During COVID, which was, a really bad situation, um, it takes somebody like him to be able to find the silver lining and understand what needs to happen out of this. And he says, "Hey man, um, meet me over at my new office." And I was like, "Okay." And we were talking, and I drove up to this medical center. I was like, "This is a new office?" And so I was like, "Hey, I think I'm outside." And so they were bringing people in because people were testing. And I was like, "What is this?" He's like, "Oh yeah, this is my new place." He's like, the need arose. People need testing to figure out about COVID and then, get the results back. So what I did is I just pulled some money together and we opened up I was like, wait, do you do anything in medical? He was like, no, I don't need to. I hired the folks who do.
Right.
I was like, are you kidding me? And he said, yeah. I said, look, I'm gonna be nosy for just a second. How many people come through here? And he was like, oh, about 1,200 people a day. I was like, a day? He said, yeah, about between 120 to $140, depending on their insurance. Now you guys do the math. This is what this brother was bringing in every day, and he captured the moment to say, hey, people have a need. I have the ability to provide what they need, and this may not go on forever, but during this time, I'm going to make the most of it.
Yeah.
And he showed me at that moment that it's really not about trying to do something over the long term. If you can be long term, the long term is about adding value. But the moments that you do it are consistent about making sure each moment is about adding value. At that moment, and I can remember like it was yesterday. It was around Christmas, and that particular year, and he was the only center that was open. It was downtown Nashville, and it was 7 blocks. People were just waiting because they needed to make sure that they tested before. And I'm sitting here thinking, I called him, I was like, hey man, I need to get a test. Can you give me? He's like, I wish I could. He said, I'm getting food for my people. I was like, I'm proud of you, man. I was like, I know that probably doesn't sound great. I'm like, I'm the mentee, but I'm telling you, I was like, I'm just glad I know you. So I'm just saying, being able to do that allows me, when I show up in front of the people that I'm mentoring, I can tell them stories about that, and it gives validity and concreteness to the stuff that I'm saying because I've seen it, I've experienced it, and I'm saying this is how I synthesize this information in my life from this person's life, and it may be helpful for you.
Nice. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's that mentor-mentee relationship. It goes both ways. It's always been going both ways. I appreciate your perspective on that. This next question is going to be kind of one of those questions. Depending on the gentleman we're speaking to, it's always kind of that. It's a softball to some, but it's also kind of a little more challenging for others. But we really want to know and want our listeners to know kind of what it means to be a Black man in America. What does it mean to you? What is your overall perspective on it as an individual, but then maybe as just a general, as a Black man for other Black men? Just kind of take it any way you want to take it, whatever direction you want to take this into, but just what does it mean to be a Black man in America for you?
Yeah, man. This the answer is going to be unique, I think, to many because of a journey that I started about 3 years ago. Um, I think we all play a major part into this puzzle of humanity, and sometimes we get caught up in how who we are as being more elevated than others or less elevated than others. And if you've ever put the puzzle pieces together of a puzzle, it doesn't matter if you get all 99 pieces if it's a 100-piece puzzle. When that one piece is missing, it's incomplete. And so the way I feel like it, I am a major part to this puzzle. I'm a puzzle piece that needs to fit in there. But If I don't see myself that way, what I'll do is I'll decrease, I'll sit in the back, and I won't show up like I should. And that, I feel like there's a lot of brothers, there's a lot of people in general, but more specifically brothers that have the narrative over them, either because it was induced from family or is induced from society. It was put on them that, yeah, you should probably be this, you should probably be this. Know that whatever you're here for and what you're doing, you should be important. Now, from the black standpoint, is I'm needed. I'm needed.
Mm.
I'm needed because if I go into corporate America, there's a perspective that is lacking. As far as executives in corporate America, I think I heard a stat that said it's less than three. If it's between 3 and 4% in CEO suites in
Mm.
corporate America. Well, don't they need me? That means we hadn't even hit 5%. That means you're only looking from a perspective of at least 97% from somebody else. And that 3% was all African Americans, women and men. So even further down, it can be divided that's a different perspective as well. And we can
Mm.
think about it from the standpoint of African Americans and their spending power. We spend a lot of money. We spend a lot of money. It'd be great to know what we're thinking and
Mm.
have our face in front of those organizations, or at least a part of the conversation. So, one of the things that I do, and that's a sub goal, it's not the overarching goal, but to let people know that we belong in places. And so, I really have a passion for developing diverse talent, because I'm saying that when it comes to a place that they say, well, who do we put in place? We need to kill all the excuses that, well, they're not skilled up. They don't have leadership skills. Nah, you went through a university. You went through Momentum University, or you've been in a coaching a group coaching session with Adrian Davis and some other folks. You're skilled up. You're ready to go. Now, if the onus is on the organization, the society, to say, okay, we just chose not to get you because you're black, not
Mm.
because you didn't have the ability or that you didn't provide value to society in the way that you can move them forward. So I play a major part in that, but that's because I've sat in and realized there's some value to who I am. And I just believe that being black in America, you have value. You just got to know where it is and where you can bring it.
Appreciate that. Right on. Right on.
That's good. I like that too. Um, well, man, we're coming down to the close of our time, and of course, we could definitely talk for so much more time with all the nuggets you've been dropping. But I know that we want to respect your time and our listeners' time too. But before we go, we always like to try to find out, how can people stay connected to you, because people may hear this podcast and they may want to reach out and say, hey, I want Adrian to come out and do some leadership training at my organization, or maybe they want to follow your journey and kind of be mentored from afar, even if they're not in Nashville. So can you tell us how people can connect with you, whether that's on social media or on your website or other ways?
Yeah, so I'll start off with LinkedIn. I tell people I'm on LinkedIn like folks on Instagram and TikTok. That's just my social media place. That's where my folks are. That's where some of the business is. So you can just go in two areas. You can go on the Momentum Leadership University for LinkedIn, or more specifically to follow my journey, you can go just under Adrian Davis. That's where a lot of people connecting with me, and especially when I go into organizations. I do have my Instagram a channel as well, and that's under productivity underscore coach. And that's pretty much it, man. Those two are the major areas for me that I really post on. And now my website is momentumleadershipuniversity.com. So momentumleadershipuniversity.com. Long, but yeah, we that's where we are, man. We got a lot of good stuff coming in 2024. We're gonna really be making sure that we can put the learning in the hands of the people. We that's when we started that, and going back to what you said, Carl. How did it all start? It started with a conference, and it turned into a training and development organization. And
Right.
we're excited for what we're doing. We've just expanded out to Europe on our footprint. So we're excited about this. Excited about 2024 and what that's going to bring. And so I want to help as many people as we can.
That's fantastic. That's exciting. I appreciate it. I'm going to reach out to you. I'm going to hit you up on LinkedIn. So
yeah, man.
Like you, I use LinkedIn. Like I don't even use Facebook. So LinkedIn is my Facebook.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah.
Well, Adrian, man, I really, really, really appreciate this time because, it's not all the time when we get a chance to stop and talk and have conversations like this. And, I really want to thank you for being a part of the podcast because I thought about you when we were thinking about the guests we wanted to have on, just because I really do think it's important for us to share with the world that there are Black men out here who are, changing the narrative in whatever spaces that they're in. So, I truly appreciate the time you've given us and the time you shared your wisdom with us. And, we're looking forward to even, building upon this conversation and seeing where, where the next one may go. So thank you for being a part of the podcast.
Yeah, man. So I heard Twin Cities. So Minneapolis, that area?
Minneapolis, St. Paul.
All right. All right. Well, I don't know how far we are on there, but we'll come back around to that because I'm up there quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's what's up. Yeah, for sure. Let's definitely connect. We're always excited to welcome you to town, and you might want to come in the warmer weather. It's getting a little chilly out here now.
I know that's right. I want to stay there like only when it's warmer because it can get cold up there.
You got it.
Absolutely. Thanks for being on the podcast, Adrian. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Take care.